Okay, Vincent, very warm welcome to the show. For our listeners, would you be so friendly to introduce yourself?
Sure, Lodewijk. I'm a trend watcher. I basically love new technologies and how they change the world. And that varies from everything from, started with ICT, then I went to client server, then I went to internet, then I went to mobile, to big data, to artificial intelligence. And 5 years ago, I stumbled onto the cryptocurrencies, the bitcoins, and so I organize a conference in the blockchain arena and also with Bitcoin. So I like new technologies and I love to see how it has influence on the world.
Okay, thank you. What is blockchain?
Yeah, well, blockchain is a wonderful new technology. I mean, blockchain goes back to 1995 when David Chown in Amsterdam introduced DigiCash, and he was a fantastic guy, and he basically came up with a method to make digital money, and that you didn't have a double spending problem, that people could send money back and forth on the internet without a third party. So that was 1995 when it first appeared, and it's a combination of cryptocurrencies and open source software. And when then basically the Dutch central bank killed it, and all the central bank killed it, and of course the internet was not so popular at that moment. And then in 2008, then we had, of course, the big banking crisis and Goldman Sachs, and we had this 50%. The stock market went down, and everybody thought, "Oh, this old system's going down." And then this Satoshi Nakamoto came up with this new and improved cryptocurrency idea, which was a decentralized ledger with cryptocurrency, open source, and nobody owns it. And wrote this paper in 2009. We got a new. 2009 was the paper and the first software. And now, of course, we have all this cryptocurrency. And the nicest thing is it's a system which is decentralized. Everybody has a copy of the same information. It is now worth about 140 billion. And everybody tried to hack it. And that didn't work. So it's a system with built-in security. And also the openness. It's so open. Everybody can hack it. But nobody has been able to do that. So it is a nice open source system without third parties where people can transact. And they can transact money, they can transact contracts, they can transact everything from value. And at the moment we have about 1,000 coins and all kinds of new initiatives. And it's a new way to get all this, to get the trust in society organized. So, and we see it growing. It's still extremely small, but we see it growing at a rapid rate.
And on the field that transparency, would you say that transparency and the way it works, especially that there's no government oversight engaged in it, it makes it a good or a bad move for criminals to use their money laundering operations?
Yeah, well, the blockchain, it depends on which blockchain you choose. If you take Monero, that is a blockchain which is which is very anonymous. But the blockchain of Bitcoin is extremely open. Extremely open. So first criminals thought they were totally protected, but it's if somebody knows your public key, then all the transactions can be checked. So it's really not a very fantastic system for criminals to use, and they are going to other ones than Bitcoin. So, but
Okay.
I mean, criminals
Yep.
are very smart, creative people, so they were one of the first to use it in a more systematic way. And it's of course a fantastic way to send money all over the world very quickly. With if the amount is a little bit more, then the costs are relatively modest. But I would say that the criminal activity on the blockchain of the Bitcoin blockchain. We have about 350,000 transactions. It's a small minority. You know, it used to be that new techniques, criminals and sects would start to use it, and then the normal world takes over. And I think that happens the same with blockchain. It's actually if the old system, the old banking system, and the blockchain comes together, on all
Mm-hmm.
these exchanges. It's extremely regulated. There's an incredible KYC project, Know Your Customer. If you want to buy Bitcoin everywhere all over the world, you have to identify yourself with passport, with your phone number, with your address, with your this, with your that. There's a huge amount of checking. So in a lot of countries, it's not so easy. Now you can of course go to all kinds of special places where there are exchanges which are not checked so much. But I would say that there are now special blockchains for criminals or who want to stay
Mm-hmm.
anonymous, and I think that problem is going away rapidly.
So Bitcoin is not the go-to route for criminals, you say?
No, well, you have two different things. You have Bitcoin and blockchain, and of course you have
Mm-hmm.
the Bitcoin blockchain, the Ethereum blockchain, and the Monaco blockchain. And there's now other blockchains which are much more secure and much more anonymous than the Bitcoin blockchain, because all the transactions are, in the ledger which everybody can track. If I send
Mm-hmm.
you money, then you can just take you can see the number, my Bitcoin public address. You type it into blockchain.info. You see exactly with who I do business. And that is not a very anonymous system. So it's extremely open.
That's really a good thing. I mean, it increases trust and increases capacity. And how big is the cryptocurrency, Bitcoin and blockchain compared to other things like the dollar, the euro, the pound sterling, the RMB?
Well, if we look at coinmarketcap.com, I can now show you my screen. And
Mm-hmm.
here's my screen. As you can see that. At the moment, the Bitcoin, all the Bitcoins together are worth about 65 billion. Ethereum is worth 29 billion, and Bitcoin Cash is 11 billion. So if you take those three together, they are about 100 billion, and the total
Mm-hmm.
value of all the Bitcoins, all the 500 coins together, is 140. So the top three Bitcoins, the top three cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin and Ethereum and Bitcoin Cash, are worth 100, and then totally 140. Now, if you want to compare that with the whole, you have a big love of gold, and
Yes, gold is good.
gold is good. Well, I never
Yeah.
owned an ounce of my life, but the total the value of gold is 7 trillion, 7,000
Mm-hmm.
billion. So it's cryptocurrencies are now worth 2% of gold. All the gold together is 2 swimming pools. So it's also cryptocurrencies. If you want to have $1 billion in gold or $1 billion in cryptocurrency, one is a
Mm-hmm.
memory stick, and the other one is already a huge amount. So it's a lot more practical to take a cryptocurrency. If you then take all the amount of cash in the world, all the banknotes and all the coins and everything, that is also about $6 trillion, 6,000 billion. If you
Mm-hmm.
look at the digital gold, it's about 100 trillion, so 100,000 billion. So it's 2% times divided by 100, so 0.002% of the digital. Then we have all the debts. That's about 200 trillion, and the derivatives is about 600 billion, 600 trillion, 600,000 billion dollars. So
Mm-hmm.
cryptocurrencies is at the moment 0.000000001% of all
Mm-hmm.
the money. It's nothing. It's
But
absolutely
it
totally nothing.
but it's a big thing in the media and in the world. Everyone talks about it.
People talk about it, but it
Yeah.
doesn't mean anything. We ain't seen nothing yet. It's also only just it started in 2009, and we're now talking about so it's 8 years old. So it's extremely young, but it is going up quite a bit in value. I mean, because if you looked at 1 year ago, the total value was maybe 40 billion, and the year before it was 4 billion, and it was so it's going up rapidly, and people are talking about it. And what you see is now much easier for for people who have money, who have that real money or the old money, and if they want to
Mm-hmm.
buy cryptocurrencies, there's more and more exchanges coming, and there's more and more regulation coming. So that also there's funds coming. There's funds which invest in bitcoins. so that people can buy shares in that fund, or they can have them. They can just buy with their normal money. They can buy shares in a mutual fund, and
Mm-hmm.
then the amount of money which flows in is quite a bit. Every day we have about 2 billion euro of money flowing in and out, and there's more money. There's more money flowing in than money flowing out. That's why the exchange price goes up. That's why the price of Bitcoin goes up, because a lot more money goes in than out.
And where do you think that Bitcoin and blockchain will be over, let's say, 10 or 15 years?
Yeah, well, there's a couple of things. At the moment, it's an investment or
Mm-hmm.
speculation hype. It used to be that it was used to transfer money internationally. I would say that's still happening. From the
Mm-hmm.
330,000 transactions, which are happening every day in Bitcoin, and a little bit more in Ether. I would say that 90% at the moment is speculative. People buying and selling
Mm-hmm.
crypto because they want to make money out of the investment or speculation. But also people are spending money. For example, I buy mining equipment, and if I want to buy mining equipment in China, I
Mm-hmm.
just send bitcoins, and in 2 seconds, now in 10 minutes later, my payment is confirmed. It's a really handy way to do international payments. Remittance, that people send money who work in certain countries
Mm-hmm.
go somewhere else. You can do that relatively cheap. Not if you send $2 or $5, but if you
Mm-hmm.
send $200, at the moment it costs about $2 to send a payment all over the world. Now, if you send $500, that is a very efficient way, and within 15 minutes it arrives. And and in the Ether there's all kinds of smart contracts where it works in the energy sector, especially also the ICO, the initial coin offerings,
Mm-hmm.
where people make their own coin. So I would say that if you look in 10 years, a couple of things need to happen. First, the amount of transactions need to go up. So both for Bitcoin and Ethereum, which are the two leading platforms, we need to go from Bitcoin can do about 5 or 6 transactions a second.
Mm-hmm.
Well, to give you an idea, Visa does 2,000 transactions a second, and and that needs to go up a factor of 100 of 1,000. And there's all kinds of systems coming both for Ethereum and Bitcoin to make that possible. And it needs to get more and if that happens, that the transactions amount go up and that the transaction fees goes down, I think we're going to use it more as an international payment system, and later we can use it as a general payment system. And I think that is still 5 years away. But for international payment system, it is a very handy system. It can easily become from 140 billion to 1.4 trillion to 14 trillion. I mean, if it can easily become 100 times bigger, and then also people will get used to it and will start using it also to send money back and forth, because it is a much more modern way than the old banking system with all kinds of very complicated system. In a normal bank, 3 people are doing the work. Like they organize,
Mm-hmm.
they have the computers up and running, and they do hundreds of millions of transactions, and 1,000 people are testing if these people are doing their job right, if the trust to organize the trust.
Mm-hmm.
Trust is already built into Bitcoin and Ethereum, all these blockchain systems. So it's a lot. It works a lot more modern. So all the banks are also using blockchain experiments to see, can we use that as the next level generation of the next generation IT system to organize our payment systems with.
And what is, in your opinion, the biggest negative side effect and the biggest risk for blockchain and the Bitcoin as biggest one?
Well, we can see that very well. For example, the Bitcoin was, went up. Bitcoin was unknown, so it was very popular, and everybody started to use it. It went to $1,000, $1,200. Then China forbid it. Not a couple of other central banks forbid it. Went down to 250. Then it went up to 2,000. Then there was a quarrel in the software developers who created the Bitcoin and the miners. The miners are the ones who have all these distributed ledgers, and they had a big quarrel about how can we make the amount of transactions bigger in Bitcoin. And then the whole system got stuck for about a year. They were discussing, and nobody was agreeing. It is a permission. It is. I mean, the people have to agree. The community of Bitcoin has to agree what kind of next steps they're going to take. That is a messy process. It can easily break down, and then you have all kinds of groups who start their own Bitcoin, like we now have the Bitcoin and the Bitcoin Cash, and we have the Ethereum and the Ethereum Classic. Every time that the community doesn't agree, and it splits in two, you have two coins. Everybody suddenly ends up with two coins, and there's two communities, and they have the same name, and they go their own way. So that is, at the moment, highly unstable. The governance system is quite a problem. If you then look, for example, the Ethereum, which is worth 30 billion, that's now based on a 23-year-old or 25-year-old Canadian guy who, what's his name? Valerie, what's his name? Let me see. Oh yeah, here we have him. Oh yeah, I'm still having the Vitalik Buterin. Yeah, Vitalik Buterin, and he's the one who's the leader of Ethereum. And if he doesn't, and there was a rumor that he was dead, that he was in a car accident, and Ethereum went down with 20%. So it is a couple of people who organize, who are basically the people behind that, behind the software of this program. And if they don't agree, then it can be a big mess. But that of course doesn't matter. If Bitcoin goes down the drain, then Ethereum will take over. If Ethereum goes down the drain, Bitcoin Cash can take over. Or you have, for example, NEM, or you have Neo. You have all kinds of different platforms. So one platform can come and go depending on how the governance is and how they can get all the technological challenges if they can meet them. But in general, this kind of technology will be very popular. But the individual platforms can go down the drain if there's a quarrel and everybody basically gives up on it.
Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Okay.
That's it. That's it. Hebben. U bent eeuwig bedankt.
Nou, dat was 17 minuten. Je wou nog helemaal niet hebben.